Hello again, guys. I thought I would try to start something a little different than the few videos that I have up. I thought, let me back up. When I first decided to start a YouTube channel, I thought it'd be really interesting to kind of do it almost like a diary almost. I don't know, what is that? What is that show where they do that on camera, like Survivor or something, where they all have a camera and they do their little diaries? Something along those lines. Just some sort of platform where I could dive a little deeper into subjects and, I don't know, kind of share my journey and be a little more personal than my other videos. Hopefully this won't get too long. But just somewhere where I can, I don't know, open up a little bit and share with you and maybe help you find somebody to relate to, or, I mean, really make the kind of videos that I wish I would have had maybe a year or two ago, or even now, maybe. So, I don't know how these are gonna go. It is nap time, so I thought I would call these my Naptime Diaries. And I don't know, I kind of have a few subjects on my mind, so we'll see where it leads us. But to start off with, if you've never been to my channel before, I am Marie, and I have a 2-year-old boy, and my channel's kind of about Montessori at home and that kind of thing, but I'm really passionate about mental health and about mindfulness and, I don't know, just kind of life in general, and just, I don't know, how we all relate to each other and what we can find in common and how we can make use of that. I think that social media and YouTube are amazing platforms for sharing and relating and realizing you're not alone. And that with the 7 billion other people on the planet, that there's bound to at least be another billion people like you that are going through what you're going through, or have, or will go through what you've gone through. So in light of that, I figured I'll just put it out there, and, you know, whatever happens with it, you know, maybe somebody out there will find it interesting. So today I thought I would talk a little bit about kind of an experience I had last night going through my journal. So I actually wrote recently on my Instagram page, if you're not following me, at mamaintherain. But I wrote on my Instagram page about journaling and how kind of eye-opening it is, and how really just sort of free association writing, just sort of writing whatever's in your head and letting it all out, how helpful that can be. And kind of the experience I had recently of writing. I've been having like a really bad week or a couple weeks, and I don't know, I just felt on edge and just felt kind of off, and that was making me feel grumpy because I felt like I wasn't doing all my normal life stuff well. So I journaled it out, and I recognized that a lot of these negative thoughts that I still have stirring in the back of my mind from a different stage in my life, or from abusive situations or people in my life, things that I've been told about myself, or even just things I led myself to believe about myself, were still kind of bouncing around in there. And that, for one reason or another, those thoughts have been triggered, and I had been feeling, you know, down about myself as opposed to just overwhelmed with life. So recognizing that was super helpful. So journaling is a practice that I've been doing for a while, and I'm not gonna lie, I mean, I can go a few months before I journal, so I don't do it every day. But it is something that is really therapeutic, and something that, with a lot of the stuff I've gone through on my personal journey, my life, which, you know, I'll get into more, maybe not all of it in this video, but in the future, that I feel like has been really therapeutic, and a huge reason why I've been able to move through stuff, or maybe reframe things. So last night I was journaling. This is a journal I started when we were first trying to conceive our son. So he's 2. And I don't know, I thought it'd be really interesting to have a journal to kind of express to him someday in the future, even to just myself in the future, how much went into becoming a parent, becoming a mother. Not just the physical work of making and growing a baby, but also just the emotional side and the thoughts that go through your head and the goals you have, and how it all kind of ends up in the end, you know, how all that kind of, what that makes. So last night I was reading through, I still journal in it, but I was making a little note of something cute he said when we were going to bed, and I was reading through my old entries. And I think like this might have been the first time since I started it that I really read through the whole thing and just kind of saw this journey of the last, well, what would be 3 years now, just saw the whole thing as like one big picture and saw who I was and how I became who I am now. And I don't know, some things struck me. I'm not gonna cry. I get emotional. So I don't know, some things really struck me. Kind of a little small snippet of just kind of what my journey has been. I was working full time whenever I got pregnant and had a great job, well-paying job that I ended up having to quit due to horrible morning sickness that lasted half of my pregnancy, and literally bedridden, losing weight. It was awful. But because of that, I could not work. And work was also very not understanding about me being pregnant. I'm not going to name drop or anything, but they weren't great about families in general in the company. They liked single people. So they weren't happy that I was pregnant, and it just didn't end well, and I ended up quitting my job, which at the time was really stressful. I had tons of anxiety being on bed rest anyway, being newly pregnant, being really sick, and then having the horrible guilt of suddenly half of our income was gone. Now, we did really make sure that that was something we could afford, and we could, but not the lifestyle that we had wanted or intended to have. So I hadn't planned on being a stay-at-home mom right away. I will say now that I can't imagine not doing that. My personality and the way I parent and mother my son, I can't imagine working. I can't imagine if I was working full time. I think it would have killed me. So the fact that I quit when I did, 6 months before I had him, I think was probably the best thing. But at the time, I was very depressed, very anxious. I suffered from prenatal anxiety, which I had no idea existed before I had it. I didn't know, I knew anxiety after having the baby could be a thing, but I had no idea you could get depression, anxiety, OCD, all that stuff that you can have after the baby, you can actually get before you even have the baby. So I had that, and all the stress from work and everything just led to horrible depression. So I made the decision to quit my job, and I really wanted to focus on a better mental health environment for myself and my husband and our baby. I worried constantly what I was doing to my child because I had so much anxiety. You know, him in the womb, was he picking up on all of this? And of course, there's the internet where you read all kinds of studies and things on stress and anxiety in mothers, and then how that relates to the baby. So not a good idea to Google things when you are pregnant, seriously. But so that was a lot of guilt that I carried around. And then when my son was born, which I won't get into in depth, not in this video, it was really traumatic. I had a home birth that should have been very beautiful and very safe. I had completely uncomplicated pregnancy, and the birth should have been very uncomplicated. We were very close, I mean like minutes away from the hospital, so should have been very peaceful and beautiful. But instead it was very abusive, neglectful, manipulative, and at certain points even flat out torture by the people that were involved with my birth, husband not included. He obviously was a victim as well. So it was basically a hijacked birth that went horribly wrong that I had to go to the hospital for after. Now, no C-section, nothing like that. He was born very quick after we got to the hospital, but it was an extremely long 36 hours with 12 hours of full force pushing forced on me. And thankfully my son was beautiful and healthy, and I survived and didn't have any major complications, a bit of a fractured pelvis and tailbone, and couldn't really walk for like 2 months. So it was a bit horrible. And as you can imagine, I got horrible PTSD from it. And if you've ever had PTSD, then you're going, yeah, I feel you. I know exactly what you went through. And if you haven't, I'm so happy. And I would not wish it on my worst enemy. It was horrible. It is horrible. I'm in the stage now, 2 years later, that I would say I'm in recovery, a little closer to recovered, but it does pop up sometimes. And I went 8 months before I got help because I didn't even realize what was going on. I still had the anxiety that I had pre-pregnancy or pre-birth. And I didn't get help until my son was 8 months old. And then when I did get help and realized, oh, I'm now, realizing what I've been going through and how much this has affected me and probably my son and my husband and everything in our lives, I had horrible guilt about that. I felt really guilty. I have felt really guilty for not getting help sooner, not recognizing what was going on with me sooner, and not being the mother that I planned on being. I didn't plan on being a mother with mental health issues, but it happens. And I know now that that does not reflect on who you are as a mother. It just reflects on the journey you take while mothering. So I had a lot of guilt about that. And then I had last April, a miscarriage, early miscarriage, which was then very triggering because losing a baby after being afraid of losing my son during his birth and being so excited to have a baby and losing it so soon, and not ever experiencing that depth of grief before was really hard and very triggering, re-triggering PTSD, already having anxiety anyway. The short-lived pregnancy was filled with a bit of anxiety too, and it was rough. It still is rough. It's something I'm still coping with, but thankfully in a way better place than I was before. With my PTSD, I started seeing a therapist, and she was amazing. I was really afraid, embarrassingly so, really afraid to see a therapist, and I thought that was confirmation that I'm crazy and I have to see a therapist. Not that I think that now, but that's what I thought at the time. And thankfully, as awful as this coincidence is, she was also a therapist for pregnancy loss. So in the year that I saw her, she helped me through that a lot, and I learned a lot of things. So I'm in a better place, but that created a whole new set of guilt as well, because here I have this beautiful son that was just like this miracle baby that I got through this horrible birth experience. Now I have this gorgeous baby that I just want to pour myself into. I just want to, every fiber of my being is just directed towards him and his growth and learning and surrounding him with love and a good environment. And then here I get pregnant again, not on purpose, but still very wanted. And that brought up guilt of, am I replacing my son? How does this even work? I'm loving this baby and still having him. And then losing that baby and feeling this horrible longing for this baby that I had and that I lost. And still having my son and feeling like, how can I be ungrateful when I have him? And it's really confusing. It's really hard. But I found I carried a lot of guilt from that. And so this is all just kind of to say that I feel like so often a lot of what we think is just really hard, being a mother or the day-to-day struggles or lack of sleep or whatever, can be bigger things. And it might not even be bigger things that's happening right now. It could be bigger things that happened 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago. It could have been, from your own childhood. There are so many little things and little decisions in our lives that can really weigh us down and stick with us in the back of our mind. So, all of that, big background story, all of that to say that last night, as I was reading my journal that I wrote to my son, I just couldn't stop reading it. I just kept reading page after page after page, and it was just like this story unfolding for me of to talk in kind of the third person, like this woman, this mother who has been through so much, who had so many hopes and dreams, and then got to a place where she thought she failed all those hopes and dreams or was failing her son, but writing to him saying, you know, I fought through a horrible birth for you. I'll fight through this horrible diagnosis of PTSD for you. And coming to a place then where she doesn't even realize that she got through it, you know, and she's just reveling in life and enjoying life. And reading that full picture was just eye-opening. It was, wow, I think on a daily basis, as I think many people do and many mothers do, that I'm failing, I'm not good enough, I'm not living up to my standards, I'm not living up to the world's standards, everyone's judging me, I'm judging myself, I am not doing this right, everyone knows how to do it better than me, or, you know, whatever. So reading that full picture and seeing myself on paper and separating myself a bit from that was just this beautiful image of a struggle and a journey where I didn't fail, where I did accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. And I became, through all of it, a completely different kind of mother than I even had pictured. Before you have a child, I feel like we all have this idea of what kind of mother we'll be, but it's shallow. It's a shallow image because we haven't been there. We don't know the ins and outs, and you know, we don't know what journey we'll take and where it will lead us. So I feel like there's so much more depth to myself as a mother, and seeing that on paper, and seeing kind of in book form almost, you know, the journey I've taken and who I've become. I feel like, I don't know, just that it's made me realize that the kind of mother I've become that I'm really proud of, the parts of me that I'm really proud of, and even the parts of me that I'm not proud of, but the way I handle that and approach that and make amends or try to do better or learn or grow, all of that is because of what I went through. And that all the fears that I had when I quit my job, or when I was sick and pregnant, or after the birth, or when I got diagnosed with PTSD, or I had my miscarriage, or any of that, that all of these fears I had, they didn't come true. And the ones, if there were any that did, I handled it. It wasn't like they came true and it was doomsday and it was all horrible. So I feel like it was such a great experience reading that and being so grateful that I did this journal. And it's not actually my only journal. This is the one that I keep specifically about my son and letters to my son and that kind of thing. But journaling in general has just put everything in perspective. And I feel like it's such a useful tool to get it on paper, to let it out so you're not holding on to it, but then also to be able to look back at it and say, yeah, I did it. This is where I've come. And it gives you such gratitude and appreciation and compassion for yourself when you see yourself on paper. Yeah, I don't know if this was interesting or helpful to anyone. If it is, let me know. I'm not sure what I'll talk about in the future. I was thinking maybe some more videos just about PTSD or anxiety. Anxiety, I don't know. I was just going to mention that my son is 2, and postpartum anxiety is something I didn't realize until seeing my doctor and therapist, that if you're still breastfeeding, because of all the hormones and everything of breastfeeding, can continue until you stop breastfeeding. So since I am still nursing my son, that is something that I guess is almost a conscious decision of, yes, I'm going to keep doing this despite the fact that it's still, you know, causing my anxiety to continue. So that's something that I just wanted to mention because I hadn't realized that. And if you're watching this and you're thinking postpartum, he's 2 years old, so I thought I would mention that. But I might do videos about that. If, you know, talking about different methods of tools you can use to help cope with anxiety or depression or PTSD, or just the fog and confusion of motherhood and working out in your brain, you know, what your thoughts are and how you're feeling about things, and how you're doing in life, mentally, everything. Yeah, I'd be happy to make videos about that too, because for better or worse, I have a lot of experience in this area, so I'm happy to share information. But I just thought I would share a little bit. Like I said, I just wanted to make the kind of videos that I would have been looking for in the past, that hopefully will be useful to somebody else. So thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. I'll see you next time. Bye.